Good evening and welcome to the Village of Westmont Committee of the Whole meeting for March 17, 2011. I would just like to begin by giving a warm celebratory atmosphere to all of my good friends who happen to be of the Irish faith, I would call it almost.
It is a faith.
A faith. And wearing green today to help them celebrate this fine Irish holiday. Thank you. And with that being said, I would like to ask our clerk to please take the roll call.
Mayor Ron?
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Emery?
Here.
Trustee Fleming?
Here.
Trustee Forsley?
Here.
Trustee Klebanow is absent tonight. Trustee Scott?
Here.
Trustee Seneca?
Here.
Manager Searle?
Here.
Attorney Zemanek?
That's O Zemanek. Here.
Only you would come up with it. Economic Development Director and Assistant Manager Kimball. Director of Fire Prevention Daniels. Deputy Police Chief Brenza. Detective Gomorzik and Acting Deputy Liquor Commissioner Gomorzik, I should have said.
Here.
Acting Finance Director Parker. Here. Village Planner and Assistant Economic Development Director Malik.
Now please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item before us this evening are the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held March 3rd and to be distributed, and the board meeting held March 7th, 2011. Any corrections to be reported? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is open forum. We have one request before us this evening from Liz Rathburn at 5 Mohawk Drive in Clarendon Hills. Liz.
Good evening. My name is Liz Rathburn. I have a first grader at Manning Elementary. I'm the vice president of fundraising for Manning's PTO, and I'm the lead organizer for the Harlem Wizards event we're planning on Thursday, April 21st. Mayor Ron was kind enough to ask me to this meeting to tell you a little about the event being planned for our community. At the Harlem Wizards game, fans will witness amazing basketball talent combined with hilarious comedy. This world-class organization brings theatrics, exciting tricks, humors, fitness, and dazzling showmanship. Just a few of the many reasons to attend this event. My hope is by speaking to all of you this evening that you will help us spread the word to our community about this event and would consider showing up to show our families like us you are passionate about our children's time in District 201. With support from the Manning PTO, the Miller PTO, the Junior High PTO, and the Westmont High School Athletic Boosters, we're thrilled to be co-hosting an exciting event for all ages at the high school gym on Thursday, April 21st. This is a fundraiser for us, and we're selling tickets for $8 for students and seniors and $10 for adults before the event. The prices will go up by $2 at the door that evening. You can purchase tickets online or download an order form on our donated website from a parent at westmontschoolevents.com. The Harlem Wizards souvenirs will be sold the night of the event, and the high school concession stand will be open for all of us to enjoy that evening. Our team, who will play the Wizards, have been named the Westmont Thunder. It will be made up of teachers and staff members from all 4 schools and community members like 2 of our village trustees, Mr. Mark Forsley and Mr. Lee Fleming. Thank you. The 4 organizations involved agree that we are hoping this event bridges the gaps between our buildings and our community. It is exciting for me to see so many families excited about a new event to assist in our children's time within the district schools. Sponsorships are available for families and local businesses who are interested in participating. All sponsors will be recognized in our event program book, on our event website, and numerous times through the game with the Harlem Wizards MC. There are 3 levels of sponsorship to choose from. The $500 level, I want to be a star, gets you 4 VIP seats behind the team of your choice, 2 VIP parking spots, which we know is a hard thing to come by at high school, and at the night of the event. And for an extra $50 at this level, you can play on the Westmont Thunder team. For $250, the Alley Oops level, the sponsor would receive 4 VIP tickets to sitting behind the Westmont Thunder and 1 VIP parking spot. And for $100, the Trick Hoops level, sponsors will receive recognition throughout the game. Once the event is over, all of the monies raised will be split equally between the 4 organizations involved. If anyone has any questions about the event, please don't hesitate to contact me or any members of the PTOs and the athletic boosters. We're happy to help, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from board members?
It's going to be a fun night.
Have they, I just
Mr.
was
Star,
wondering
basketball player?
if they've talked to Larry Forsberg in the chamber at all?
I don't know.
Larry and I have been in contact,
Okay,
or our
good.
committee's been in contact, and we do have the coach of our team, and we use that term very lightly. There's no practices involved. The coach of our team is actually Superintendent Mr. Carey, and we have quite a few high school teachers, coaches. At Manning, I can say we're having a Pennies for Players contest right now, and the kids are dropping money in milk jugs, and dollar bills have even showed up in the last couple days voting for their favorites. Miller's team is all set. So by Monday, I think we will know, and we will announce to the public all 25 of our teammates, including Mr. Fleming and Mr. Forsley. So,
Great.
thank you very much.
Great idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
To get all the different schools involved in the whole community.
It's going to be an exciting
Be a lot
event.
of fun.
My kids have seen the video on YouTube of the guys, their promotional video. I started thinking about this in September, and it just came to fruition in November. We've seen the video maybe 6 million times. And for a first grader and a 4-year-old to see this is unbelievable. So selfishly, they think I'm doing this just for them. There will be 1,000 other people, I hope, there to enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's so good.
Moving right along, reports. I just have one thing that I would like to bring up, and that is that I've been talking to a number of residents in the community, and as everyone is fully aware, we have a very strong business community. We have a lot of businesses downtown. We have businesses north and south of the village. But I have always mentioned, and the other board members as well, we need to encourage our residents to support the businesses here in Westmont. The north end of town, the south end of town, and the central business district. In that capacity, I would like to form a committee to be entitled the Citizens Economic Development Advisory Committee. It will be strictly voluntary. It will be a voluntary ad hoc committee. I see it initially lasting just about 3 months, made up of residents of the village, not the business people, but just the residents that we would like to get to come out and help support all of our businesses, primarily downtown in the central business district, but in actuality, our whole village. Individuals to get together to do some brainstorming to see what they can come up with in terms of trying to give more support to our businesses here in the village. And those people that would be interested in applying, and I have several people that have contacted me already, would like them to either send a letter to me at the village or to send me an email through our village email to indicate that they would like to get together. And I see this, I'd like it to be 7 to 10 people maximum on this committee. So if there's anyone out there that's interested in getting involved, please let me know, and then we will get back to the board and the community later as we define more of our guidelines. Thank you. Moving right along, next, our village clerk, Jenny Simsky.
I just have two items real fast. One is Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. And the second is with the election sign all going out, I just want to remind everybody to be careful that signs are not put in the parkway. That's all. Just, be careful where you put your signs and make sure they're not in the parkway. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, our village attorney, John Zemanek.
Thank you, Mayor. I passed out tonight and I emailed to you late this afternoon, actually 2 recapture agreements and a request for board action that Steve May prepared regarding the Hidden View Drive reconstruction project. And I know this was discussed some time ago by the board and then discussed, Ron Searles told me, at a Public Works Committee concerning the extension of the roadway and various public improvements that are needed. You may recall the board approved the Solly subdivision, which was a 4-lot subdivision. The developer had that property foreclosed on. The bank is in control of the property. What the village has proposed is that the village would undertake to complete the public improvements that would benefit this subdivision, as well as property across the street, which is at 25 Hidden View Drive, which likely to be subdivided at some point in the future, and then seek to recapture a portion of those costs against those 2 properties based on their linear footage. It's an equation to determine their linear footage compared to the overall project linear footage to determine what cost the village can recapture. And the village would be recapturing from the Solly subdivision property upon the bank's selling of 1 or more of those lots, and would be recapturing against the 25 Hidden View property only in the event that that property is subdivided. If it doesn't subdivide and it stays a single-family house forever, the village would not see the recapture monies come in. So with your permission, I'd like to add that to the agenda for Monday for approval. If you have any questions in the interim, let me know. The bank has seen the recapture agreement as it pertains to the Solly subdivision, and they are in agreement with it. The recapture agreement in each case has a 20-year term, which is statutory. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, our village manager, Ron Searle.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I wanted to mention that on Monday at 6 o'clock, there's going to be a combined code enforcement and building and zoning committee meeting here in the boardroom chamber. And also I wanted to report to the board, a number of weeks ago you approved the radio project IGA, and we hadn't heard anything from the state's attorney's office, but today we were notified that in fact it's been reviewed by the state's attorney's office and it's scheduled to be approved. We've already approved it, but they're going to schedule it and approve it at the county board level on March 22nd, I believe. So I know that I was invited, as well as the chiefs, to attend that county board meeting. So the project's moving ahead, and I just wanted to report that. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Next, our village trustees. Start with Trustee Seneca.
Thank you. I wanted to congratulate the police department on the Junior Police Academy graduation event that they had last Saturday. It was really, really a nice event. The kids were just absolutely thrilled. Sergeant Schlicker did an incredible job organizing that for 5 weeks. What was really cool, and several of the kids mentioned it to me and the parents, during that 5-week period, every single police officer at some point in time stopped in and said hi to those kids. And you just can't measure that kind of stuff. It's really, really good. A great, great program. So the next time we have it, I encourage everyone, get your kids in it. It's phenomenal. And the Adult Academy started this last Wednesday. Also great. Probably still time to sneak in on the second one if they have space, but they do a great job. So I wanted to congratulate them and thank them for inviting us to that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Scott.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Okay. Trustee Fleming.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Forsley.
I just want to, being at the junior high, congratulate some of our kids. We had Adam Farrow, who was our first state qualifier for wrestling. He went downstate, upstate, I guess he went to Northern. Yeah. But it did a real nice job, I think it was a couple weekends ago. And then we also had an all-star game for basketball, and 2 of our girls, my girls, Elisa Klawinski and Alana Pace were on the team, and I was able to coach that team, which we won 38-34, so that was fun. And then the boys, Jack Rebellato and Charlie Donovan, were on the boys' team, and they won also, their team. So they were selected. So it was nice to get some recognition for our kids over at the different events. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Trustee Emery.
I just want to mention my congratulations to Deputy Chief Gunther. He is out at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, and he's graduating this weekend. And Chief Mulhern and Kelly Mulhern went out for the graduation, and the chief, of course, sent back the emails of his rental car saying he did not order the Charger, red Charger that he is driving around. And he did also email his hotel room where, and I think it smacked of Jim Gunther calling the hotel before his arrival because everything is 3 feet off the ground.
Oh, he's done that before, too. It's happened before.
It's for handicapped people, but the chief and Kelly are in that room. And actually his clothes fit, hanging that far close to the ground. The picture even showed that his clothes did fit. So, but anyway, so Jim Gunther will be back soon, and we're all anxious to have him back with his newly acquired knowledge. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along, new business, variance request 132 South Cass. Board to consider zoning code variance request from Uncle Bub's Restaurant for the following. A, zoning code variance request to permit an electronic message board sign in the B1 Limited Business District. B, zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs. And C, zoning code variance request to increase the maximum gross square footage of signage.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, staff members. Uncle Bub's Barbecue has been a successful business within the village of Westmont for 13 years now. Over the past years, we've experienced some hardships with the declining economy. As we look to the future in efforts to help increase our revenue, we would like to enhance our marquee to an electronic message board. Statistics show that an electronic message board could increase business up to 15%. It is to our understanding that under our current location in Zone B1, we are not eligible to make this enhancement without the proper permits. This is why we're requesting a variance permit. We pride ourselves on maintaining the exterior as well as the interior of our property, especially due to the fact that we are the first business entering into the downtown area from the south. Our marquee has been extremely labor intensive because we change it so often. Our graffiti has been an issue concerning our letters are easily rearranged and spell out explicit words and sayings. The electronic message board would have a black background with red lettering and would be the same dimensions as our current marquee. Our sign would not contain any sort of flashing, animation, illusion, or similar display. We will have no graphics whatsoever, and it will only have alphanumeric characters. All of our messages would change instantaneously with no transitions and will not change more than once every 30 seconds. Uncle Bub's would meet the maximum light intensity regulation of Article 11 and would be on a dimmer control switch which could be adjusted to meet all village light emission standards. Our electronic message board would be respectful and not alter the character of the neighborhood in any way, and we strongly feel that this will not adversely impact our neighbors. We have and always will be focused on the community and giving back to the community, which is why we would like to allocate 20% of the electronic message board to help promote the community and the community's local events if granted permission. We are asking for the board's support in this matter. Thank you.
Do we have input from staff regarding the particulars of this request?
Thank Thank you. Both the Economic Development Committee and Planning and Zoning Committee did meet to discuss this item and recommended approval. Staff has had some ongoing concerns with the character of the signage, given the ordinance that was put into place in 2007, which carefully examined where they're appropriate, where this type of new technology is appropriate. So we still do have those concerns. This property is on the outlying portion of the B1 district, but there is still that concern for setting a precedent in downtown Westmont. That being said, the passed around this evening at the dais was a memo. The applicant and I did meet yesterday, and I do want to commend him for bringing some suggestions to mind in terms of eliminating some of the non-conforming sign to at least reduce the severity of the existing signage. He's offered to remove entirely the sign on the east facade and the north facade, so that would bring down his square footage from 158 square feet to 94 square feet. So the issue that issues that remain are really, in my opinion, more focused on the electronic message board component and whether or not that is appropriate in downtown Westmont.
Mark, the east facade, that's the one that faces Cass, and you take the big one down right from the front of the building?
Yes.
I'm a patron of yours, so anything that I say don't take it personally.
I respect that.
What about the neon signs in the windows that say like pulled pork, barbecue pork? Because I think that's a given, knowing that it's Uncle Bub's barbecue.
I believe that's part of the character of the building and of the business, and that's been in there since we opened.
Okay.
Yeah, since we put the addition on. Mm-hmm.
I have to tell you, I have mixed feelings about this.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think that the current marquee looks archaic, and I know that you have trouble with the rearrangement of the letters, plus the amount of time it takes to change them because your specials are always changing, and we read that. We actually pay attention to it. On the other hand, there has been a substantial amount of development in the residential area on Cass, south of Uncle Bub's. A lot of those older houses got torn down, and the builder who built those similar townhouses, the duplex townhouses, has done quite a nice job to upgrade what is our main thoroughfare with nice housing. So what I did was, I parked my car and I walked as far up the hill towards 55th Street light as I could till all of downtown disappeared. Then I turned around and I walked back towards downtown. And I was alarmed and disappointed to think that a red electronic message board would be seen through all of this treed residential area. The view from walking down Cass, which is the same as driving, but I did it the slow, rather than pull over to the side of the road kind of thing. And psychologically, what you see coming down, when you come down the hill towards town, is you see the street lights, okay? And they're not a white glow, they're more of an amber glow. So what I thought, in my mind, would be more appropriate, or something to reach a compromise on everything, would not be red letters, but gold letters on black. Because when you come down there, red would stick out like a sore thumb, whereas gold, you would see it, but it wouldn't be as contrasting and what I think is a bad mix in that residential area that you boarded. So that's just my thought on that.
I appreciate that. As far as the colored gold, I don't know. I'm sure I could probably get that. I'm sure it's going to cost probably more. I think the red's the standard, but I'm sure I could look into that. I truthfully never even thought about that.
Because there's a lot of them that have gold now,
Yeah, I've never seen one with gold, but I'm sure they have them. I see some in Westmont, south of 63rd, that are extremely bright and flashing. I wouldn't do that. I would be in code for sure. I don't want it overpowering.
Right.
I just want something to put the message out there with our specials
Right.
without spending so much time with staff going out there in rain or in the snow, whatever the wet elements are. I don't know what the price difference is with gold, to be honest with you.
But the contrast that I saw is I stood there for a while, and tail lights are the contrasted red dots. And I thought, okay, put lots of little red pixels over here in where that sign is going to be. And there is an extreme contrast. And although I would not like to see an electronic message board, I would like to see you be able to promote your specials and to do, certainly as well, if not better than you're doing now. So, but that's just my idea of what I think would be a better fit for where you are bordering residential.
We had a lot of discussion about this at the Economic Development Committee meeting when Jay made the presentation, and I think it was Trustee Scott that made the point, and a point well taken. These types of signs are the wave of the future, and especially in this economy, businesses are trying to draw attention to their business, and we're going to be getting more and more and more of these requests. Of the ones we have in town, certainly, I'll say it right now, I think your proposal is by far the most reasonable.
I would keep my
We're not
word.
going to have little cars driving across it. We're not going to have little people dancing. We're not going to have little pigs, rolling over with an apple in their mouth. I have no problem with this. I know that if you put it in and it's too bright, you'll dim it.
It will have a dimmer control switch on it. And I would do that. And, it doesn't have to be on.
As far as the color, it is an odd location because you are close to residential. It doesn't concern me that this is in the B2. In fact, I think at some point we probably want to relook at that B2 because or B1, I'm sorry. I don't even know if you should be in there. You're so removed from the downtown area. I really have no problem with this. I thought Jay presented it very, very well. It went very well at planning and zoning. You're a great business in town. You're very generous in town, and your willingness to share that sign with our Westmont events is great. Absolutely phenomenal.
I would do that. I see the fire department, I see their marquee. I see what's up there today, but if you're north or south, or rather if you're north of the fire department, you're going to miss it and you won't know what's going on in the village,
right.
in my opinion.
And since we don't have the bank sign anymore.
No. So thank you.
I'm okay with it. I was glad to see, reading the minutes and everything, I think our ordinance is a half hour after closures or something like that.
Yeah.
I read, which is fine. I didn't see anything in there from residents coming and complaining and saying, there's a problem. So I think it would be nice enhancement as you're coming into town. That's the first thing you'd see, and if that's nice of you to add some of the community events. And I don't know, you've seen some of the clothes I wear. I'm not sure if red versus colorblind. I'm not colorblind, but I still am not,
I think studies show that red draws more attention than other colors, but I don't want to say that.
I think the red is the standard.
It is.
I don't know that it would be, one way or the other. I really couldn't say, but I think the red is fine. And I'm okay with it. And I appreciate you taking down because like you, I kind of drove around and thinking the signs here and this sign there, and trying to be fair to other businesses that have exceeded the ordinance. We're saying, so I appreciate you saying, okay, we'll take this one down.
Those were existing signs that were already up there.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger building, but I'll take them down. You can't see them anyways. So
when
I saw that letter, I was like, okay, fine, I'm good with it. So.
I'm in favor of this. I was looking through the paperwork, and I can't remember exactly what sheet it was on how we wanted to keep the 1940s and 50s aesthetics to the downtown. We've been stuck in the 40s and 50s downtown here for a long time. I'm not quite sure we want to continue doing that, and I think this done tastefully in the way you're talking about doing it.
It would be.
Maybe bringing a new change to the downtown, which it really needs.
Thank you.
So.
I thought we were talking more 30s and 20s.
You're older than I am.
I mean, so long as you have a dimming scenario with this thing, I mean, that would be the only thing. I mean, if somebody down the street who would say something, hey, this thing is kind of glowing in my front window or whatever, but, I mean, nobody's really said anything, and I'm not sure there's a great deal of concern at this point in time with it.
I think if there is an issue of glowing, it's going to be the apartment straight across the street on the other side of that, on the south side of Dallas.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing. So I don't think they have sheets up there now. I don't know if that would, if it's going to be off at 10 o'clock at night, I don't think it's going to be too much of an inconvenience for them personally, but I don't want to speak for them.
May I ask a question of the board? Whenever there's variances, you always ask me, are we setting a precedent if this is approved? And that question might come up in this context for other businesses in the downtown. Are there any, and it seems like you may be in favor of this when the vote comes on Monday, are there any unique circumstances that apply to Uncle Bub's based on its location or otherwise that you feel would entitle them to a variance compared to another business, let's say in the middle of downtown, that may make this request in a couple months?
With economic development, we had talked about, well, what if we make it somewhere with a parking lot? And I'm sure several of us, I know I did, drove downtown and we saw that everything, including the funeral homes and the flower shop, there's a lot of parking lots downtown. So that condition would not be a good one. But I don't think we explored a lot of it as to how we could, what some unique characteristic would be in order to keep everybody and their brother from wanting an EMB on Cass.
And I'm not saying to establish qualifying characteristics as much as just in this case, is there anything that stands out why you'd grant this compared to other property in the downtown if these requests come in? Because you may have 10 requests over the next year now.
I think it was brought up tonight, and when you come in from the north, the first thing you see is the one from the fire station. Mm-hmm. And you really, and so that you leave you come off of Ogden, so you come down, you see the fire station one, and then coming from the other direction, actually you're really the first business. I mean, coming in off of that area, this electric, how do you say that? Electric bill across the street, but you two are really the first. I can never say that. The first one's coming in from the other direction, so I'm looking at it as a promotional, really, for the downtown. Well, you're the first ones, and I think that's unique.
Occasionally, the Park District does put out the sign, kitty corner from us on Dallas.
Oh, the trailer sign.
The trailer sign.
And it is, I think Mark is a little bit unique in that his business, his restaurant, is really removed from the central business district. He's kind of out there, the only restaurant kind of out there, and if nothing more than identification purposes, it will, help when people are coming, because people come from all over. They even come from out of state looking for Uncle Bub's. So it would definitely help.
If that's a consensus, then I guess I would put that and any other thoughts you have into the ordinance, so there's a record of why you're granting this for this particular business. And of course, you analyze everyone on a case-by-case basis, but it'd be nice to have something in the record.
Well, there's no continuity with businesses on his side of the street. There's apartments on either side of him. So there's just not that continuous flow of retail or even service businesses.
Yeah, he's got the barber shop next to you, and then you start hitting the beauty salons and Simply Nails and Alicia and stuff. But he's quite far removed from any other restaurants. Yeah. Whereas Amber and Absolutely Delicious and Vince Torrey, there's kind of a cluster. Whereas, yeah, okay.
By code, it states in front of us that you're allowed 67.5 square feet. Your initial request was for 158 square feet, but you've taken that with discussions with staff down to 94 square feet, so you decreased it quite a bit. Are these signs that are above in the windows, are they included in that 94 square feet signage or not?
They were.
The signs that are inside of the windows are not included in that.
Those are not.
They've typically been viewed as exempt signage. The ones that are from within the building, showing outside to the street. level.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I don't have a big problem with those signs. I think it kind of, it brings attention to the building, but it's not,
You know, try to keep that inside.
it's not
Yeah, it's kind of the character of the
ostentatious.
building.
So I think you've made an attempt to decrease the signage, square foot of signage significantly. My only concern is with the dimmer switch, is I think every sign that I've seen around the village and in other towns
tend to get
are
pretty
much
bright.
brighter than I'm hoping yours will be.
I will give you my word right now that it won't. I pulled over, well, I won't say about other signs, but there's some signs that you think there's a police or a fire vehicle behind you. Mine is not going to be offensive, and if it is, I will dim it even more. I mean,
Right, that's my only concern, that you've got
my
this.
goal is not to have it bright as much as to get our message out that we want to get out.
Right.
And I don't think you need it to be blaring in your face where there's a glare, to be honest with you.
I mean, that just wouldn't fit in the residential area that's so close
Sure.
to where
And I
you're
respect
located.
the residents as well.
Okay.
So,
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, unless there are any other comments, you'll be on our agenda for consideration on Monday.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming in. The next item, variance request 200 East Ogden. Board to consider the following request from Westmont Imports. A, zoning code variance request to increase the number of allowable signs, and B, zoning code variance request to increase the number of maximum gross square footage of signs. Yes, sir.
My name's Ken Busick. I'm from Quantum Sign Solutions. We are handling this Mercedes-Benz Westmont sign package. Basically what we're doing is Mercedes-Benz is refurbishing, upgrading their image throughout North America. And the owner of this particular business has put a lot of work into his building. And Mercedes is basically trying to upgrade their signage throughout North America. So what he's trying to do here is refurbish all the signage, kind of make it look new. He's replacing a couple signs with new signs. None of it's any larger than what's up there now. Actually, one of them is actually smaller, and he's also removing one sign, so it'd be one sign less than what he has on his property now.
What's the square footage, what you had and what's being requested, and how that conforms to the sign code?
Okay, based on the width of the building, they're entitled to 340 square feet total, and they're proposing 529 square feet based on the 5 rehabbed signs and 2 new signs.
And what do they have right now?
The one that was removed, do you recall the area offhand?
That was, I believe it was something like a 5x5, so like 25.
So 504, about.
Shannon, did the addition have anything?
Yes.
The addition did add some frontage. The bigger thing I think that's happened over time here is that these were 7 lots that were assembled in order to accommodate the dealership as it grew. So while the number of signs, if the lots hadn't been consolidated in, I think it was 2004 and 2006, the number of signs would have actually been okay. When there's a significant redevelopment, we request a consolidation. So basically, they are only allowed 1 sign because it's an interior lot.
Fred, did you want to add something?
Shannon covered it perfectly, Your Honor. This situation would not require a variance were it not for the required consolidation of these various lots so that they could build over lot lines here and expand their dealership and modernize it.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Nope. What's our, I see that the standard pylon one, is that similar to one that's already in front of the dealership?
Yes.
Is that one already almost 25 feet high?
Yes. All we're doing is taking the panels off that, repainting them, putting new vinyl where it says Mercedes-Benz and Westmont.
Uh-huh.
And that plastic Mercedes logo is being, it's basically new plastic.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're not changing the sign at all, other than sprucing it up.
Okay. Thank you.
So in actuality, you're not adding any signs to this property?
No.
Any other questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you for coming in, sir. You'll be on our agenda for Monday evening. Next item, development permit request for 9 and 11 West Quincy. Board to consider a downtown business development permit request by IMS Credit Card Processing Company for second floor offices at 9 and 11 West Quincy. Fred?
Faith and Begora, Your Honor. We're pleased to stand here before you tonight and recommend this occupancy request for a long vacant building at 9 and 11 West Quincy. I'll do the rest in English. That's it.
I thought that was English.
How long did you rehearse that in front of the mayor?
Not long enough, apparently. But, Your Honor, before we do get into that discussion, we'd also like to give the Board of Trustees a preview of coming attractions. We also have another development request for downtown Westmont that should appear on your March 31st Committee of the Whole agenda for the property at 15 South Cass. Many residents know that is the old Brown's Chicken Building, and Mr. Gottwald, the landlord, has worked diligently. We have secured another tenant there, so we will be getting you some more details of the development that will appear on the March 31st Committee of the Whole agenda as a development request. But here tonight, we're very pleased to have Mr. Chris Kaiser and Mr. Jay Reardon of Reardon Signature Homes, which is the owner of the current property at 9 and 11. Mr. Kaiser is the owner and proprietor of International Merchant Services, a very well-known credit card processing company here in Westmont. And we've got a very unique set of circumstances. Ordinarily, what we would do in a case like this where we were going to consider a development request that we knew was going to result in the requirement of a parking variance is we would have sent these developers to the Planning and Zoning Commission, gotten a recommendation from P&Z about a parking variance, paired that with the downtown development request, and brought those concurrently to the village board. There's a set of very unique circumstances here and some time crunches for this developer and the owner of the building that prompted staff to opt to bring it to the board in this fashion. We've got a situation here where Mr. Kaiser is the current owner of IMS, which operates out of the old, what we call the old State Farm building at 55 East 63rd Street. Well, the board is acutely aware that that building is being sold to the Chinese Cultural Center for their facility, and so that means that Mr. Kaiser must now move his business to another location. He's had his choice of several communities. I know that he's looking at our neighbor to the west here, who shall remain nameless, and he'd very much like to stay in the village of Westmont, and that necessitates the build-out of the second floor of this property at 9 and 11 West Quincy. And so he's here tonight to request a downtown development request for this second floor. We have received today, and I'll put on the overhead here for everyone to take a look at. This is a copy of the proposed floor plan. Mr. Reardon and Mr. Kaiser have engaged the services of a professional licensed architect to develop a second floor floor plan for this property. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Kaiser now, who will talk about how this property is to be built out and house his approximately 20 to 25 employees on the second floor. Mr. Kaiser?
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Well, we are excited about the opportunity of looking at staying in Westmont. When we moved here, originally from Oak Brook Terrace into the State Farm building about 6 years ago, we had a great time changing that building dramatically. I don't know if you remember what it looked like as opposed to investment that we put into that facility to turn it into what it is now. So, and our employees have kind of built their lives around the Westmont area. So when it came time to sell the facility, and we were very fortunate to find a group like the Chinese consulate. They're just some of the nicest people I've ever met. We looked at probably 45, over the last 6 months, 40, 45 different places and narrowed it down, like Fred said, actually to 3 spots. We want to try to be in an urban area, more of a downtown area, which has been a little bit different for us, but we think it provides an extra element to the employees that they might not have had before, and vice versa. We might be able to contribute more to an area more than we already do. So really it got narrowed down from 45 different places down to a location in Clarendon Hills. Well, I don't know if I should be mentioning towns, but one this way, one that way. And, one's a finished space and 2 are unfinished, including this space that we looked at. Aside from the fact that it's in Westmont, which I love, so I'd only have to change part of my business cards. I'd be able to keep at least Westmont on there. I love the location of the spot, and size-wise, it works out really well. We'd be looking at bringing probably, we'd be running at about close to 30 employees at this particular location, and I think we've looked at it with Jay quite a few times over the last month or 2, and working with his architect, the layout that you see before you I think would be ideal for us actually. I don't know what other details I don't know how deep you want me to go into what our thinking is or intention or what our goals are and why we chose Westmont or what have you, or
what type of remodeling would you have to do? Because the building has been remodeled completely already, but to make it adaptable to your requirements.
Yeah, exterior-wise, nothing. Exterior-wise, it's the kind of image that we're looking for. I mean, you know, we like nice things, and I like what Jay did with the building. I think exterior looks great. Interior, if you've been inside, there's a lot of work to do. It's as raw can get. But we do like nice things, and we would work with Jay to really try to make it, although we don't have clients come visit us as much as we used to because we do a lot more now in a virtual sense over the internet and over the phone as opposed to face-to-face like we've done in, you know, we've been doing this for almost 20 years now. We still do have visitors come see us, so you never get a second chance for first impression, so we'd still want it to be a really nice space inside, and also for the employees. You know, I mean, it's where they spend a third of their life, and for me, it's where I spend half my life, working 12, 14 hours a day. So if I'm going to spend that much time, it might as well be the kind of place that I enjoy being at all the time. So to answer your question, as it's laid out in front of you, it would take a fair amount of work, because it is, like I say, very raw space right now.
The good part of that, it'll be the way you want it to be.
That is the benefit, as opposed to the built-out space already just south of us here. Okay. I like that I was able to, much like I honestly did with Westmont, if you looked at the original drawings from Westmont, which I made on the back of a Southwest Airline cocktail napkin after a couple of flights, the final version of how our 55 East 63rd location looks now is very close to that original drawing. So this was actually pretty enjoyable for me. Again, like you just mentioned, to have a raw space that I could basically have a clean sheet of paper and draw it exactly for what our needs would be. You're right.
Well, you certainly have a wonderful work environment on 63rd. I think anyone would be happy to go to work there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful inside. Absolutely. It's a dream.
Yeah.
Would you be 5 days a week, 6 days a week?
Yeah.
What kind of hours?
Yeah, we'd be 8 to 6 would be the main hours. 8 to 5 is kind of the mandatory hours. Monday through Friday.
Just Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, and Saturday there's just a handful that come in. Maybe, you know, less than maybe 3 to 5 people come in on a Saturday, and nothing on Sunday.
Fred, what do we do about the parking?
Well, that's a good segue, trustee. We've kind of looked at the parking here, and as the board may recall, as a result of the parking study that we conducted several years ago with Rich and Associates, one of the outgrowths of that was that we allocated some designated employee parking in an area that's very close to where Mr. Kaiser seeks to locate his business. We have identified with Carrie Kamack in the clerk's office 17 parking spaces directly across the street from Village Hall that are very seldom used, and that's a designated downtown employee parking permit space allocation. In addition to that, just north of the tracks on East Burlington or West Burlington, we have an additional, I think it's 14 or 15 spaces over there. And we were first, Mr. Kaiser was a little bit concerned, thinking, well, I don't want my employees to have to go down to Cass and then go down. But because we have the pedestrian crosswalk there at the train tracks, it's really just about a half a block away. And we think that with the 15 on Burlington and the 17 on Quincy, and if it's my understanding is correct, we generally see an average of 4 vehicles a day that are parking in these spaces. That still leaves a considerable volume of parking available for the likes of Mr. Kaiser's employees there, which would also generate a little revenue for the village. I think our annual charge, Jenny, is what, $75 a year for a downtown employee parking space. So that comes out to what, $6 a month or something, which compares quite favorably with some of our neighbors in the metro area, and certainly a lot favorable with downtown Chicago. And it's yet just half a block away and easily traversed to get to their place of employment.
If I can take this moment to compliment Fred too, because we have great parking we're at right now. It's like, it's never use all the parking we have right now. It's like 140 spaces or what have you. And that really was our only real major concern was parking. Another space we looked at, there's a parking garage right next to the space we were looking at. But when we had a chance to speak with Fred, I just want to compliment him. He did a great job pointing out, here's what we can do. And he's right. One of our concerns was, well, I hate to send my employees walking all the way down and then crossing the train and then walking back. And I didn't realize, quite frankly, that there was I assume you'd really want to make sure you look both ways before crossing, like we were kids here. But you can cross across the train track and stuff. So kudos to Fred, because he did a great job of letting us know that that's not a concern.
Thank you. A couple of other things, Your Honor and Village Board, that makes this a unique situation. We don't have much time here, and we've got to wait till the next P&Z commission before it can go to P&Z, then a couple of weeks to get back to the Village Board on the parking variance. So the developers are making a very unusual and unorthodox request here, which is that the Village Board grant permission to the staff to, upon approval of the building plans, issue the permits for the build-out immediately prior to the time the parking variance gets back before the Village Board. So it was our hope that tonight we could kind of get a conceptual read from the Village Board about your inclination considering a parking variance and the outline of the parking facilities that we have available based on Mr. Kaiser's staff and the availability of these designated spaces.
Well, I kind of feel that, if Carrie has confirmed that we have ample employee parking permits available, that's good enough for me. And I'm glad that we set up that program. The other thing that I think is important to note is that we're going to have an additional 25, 30 people in downtown every day. They're going to eat in our restaurants, they're going to shop in our stores, they're going to walk down our streets. And I think this is an opportunity for us, and we should jump on it.
Which is a nice segue, thank you, into...
You're welcome. We rehearsed that well, didn't we?
Yes.
No, just kidding.
Which is, I have a couple of concerns. One, I think the parking idea is great, because when that building was built out with the idea that it would be a 150-seat restaurant, then what you see now as one way in front of City Hall with the angled parking was done specifically for that building. So that's good. The other thing is that there is nothing more fun than trying to get across the tracks at 5 o'clock at night. So your employees who live on that side will learn that they'll be more than happy to park on the north side of the tracks, just like the people who live on the south side want to park on the south side. The idea of getting across during rush hour is difficult. So that's just a little thing. And then, as Trustee Seneca said about, we certainly look forward to your employees patronizing the other businesses, but I do have to request. The Westmont News Agency was purchased by a family, and Ray runs it now, and he's a great guy, and we want to see him do well. Dolce's is open again, and we want to see them do well. They often have problems with people parking in front of their businesses to the point where no one can park there. That hurts them a lot, because with nowhere to park, people just keep right on and going. So I would ask you to please caution your employees to not interfere with their, because Ray has a little 15-minute parking sign, you know, in front of his business, because if they block those businesses, they'll choke them. They will cut off their lifeline. So that is one thing that I would definitely require, is that you take advantage of the parking that was made for that building.
You bring up that's a great segue to another theme about what you just said. Outside of the fact that we may also, answering your question on the hours, we may also add a late afternoon evening shift that might work till 9 o'clock at night. So there's a possibility we might be talking about more employees, but in a different shift. But you bring up a real good point about supporting the businesses, because that's what we do. We do credit card processing. I don't know if
Frame makers
know what we do.
Frame makers, one of your
Frame
clients.
makers,
Absolutely.
We process for frame makers, we process for Lamborghini Chicago, we process actually for not only thousands of merchants nationwide in all 50 states, but we do a lot of processing for a lot of merchants in Westmont, including charity processing. We process for a lot of local churches when they decided to do fundraising, what have you. We've loaned them credit card terminals and done at cost processing to help them raise funds and so forth, and make donations easier and everything. So it would truly be counterproductive. I agree with what you're saying. It would be counterproductive to, on one hand, help them that way, and then on another, park right in front of their business, and one of my employees doing that. So certainly would be the case. And the lower space is intriguing also. Again, we still meet with a lot of our merchants. They come see us, and vice versa and so forth. And interestingly enough, we had, if a lower space ended up being taken by one of our merchants that we process for, because just through general casual conversation, when we mentioned on weekly talks that we have with certain merchants, and we're starting to let them know that we're looking at moving. Oh, where are you moving to? It's led to, what's that area like? And, and I told them about the space down below. And we actually have we do a lot of processing with restaurants. We also have another group that showed some potential interest, and if they decide to pursue it, obviously I'll put Jay in contact with them. The other one's not really a restaurant as much as it's it's like a chef or cooking supply, like it's trying to think what it's along the lines of like a sur la table, if you know what that is, or like a Williams-Sonoma, where you can purchase, and they do little cooking demonstrations and so forth, but not so much per se a restaurant as it is a retail supply. But anyways, yeah, that was, we don't want to block it, and that's a good point.
Are the only accesses from the back? I'm looking at the floor plan with the arrow to the north, and it doesn't look like you have any off of Quincy. Are both of those entrances by the stairways in from the back alley?
Trustee, if I read this correctly, and after our talks with the architect, I believe there will be a street level door in the front there that will go to the elevator, and the elevator will go up, but by fire code, you have to have 2 stairwells up and down in addition to the elevator, and that's why this, we're working on this concept here for an exterior staircase that would be covered, as well as what we call a scissor staircase in the back. Chris,
Correct.
Over here, is that right?
Correct.
So because the access points for those stairwells are here and here, that apparently at first blush, our plan reviewer from Don Morris Architects believes that will meet the fire and life safety codes and the 2003 IBC requirements.
So is there going to be a build-out like of a hall or something in that empty space to get back to the elevator?
Yes, and we've talked at great length with the fire department about that. Because this will still be quasi-vacant space at the bottom, you have to have at least a 48-inch paved walkway to accommodate stretcher traffic and emergency access to the elevator and the staircases. But the owner of the property is reluctant to pave or to cement the entire floor on the first floor, because if he does get a restaurant in there, there's a lot of piping and drains that have to go in there, and it would have to be built out according to the needs of the specific restaurant. So he'd like not to have to build out the rest of that until he's able to secure a bona fide tenant with a written agreement for that first floor.
Okay. Lastly, as far as my comments, and just if any of your employees, if you go to a late shift, like you were saying, and they're worried about parking, you know, further down where Village Hall would be closed and dark, and it's just a few orange street lamps. A lot of us who take the train, I've taken the 12:30 train a lot of times where I get off at Westmont almost at 1:30 in the morning, and I park almost all the way at the end of the lot, and I have never felt where things are unsafe or dangerous.
Okay.
Creepy, maybe, but that is different than dangerous.
Right.
Okay, so parking right out in front of Village Hall, which is just, you know, across the street and down a step, that they won't be bothered at all by that, no matter what time.
That's good to hear, because we do have quite a few female employees. So actually more than half of our employees are female, so that's good to hear.
Mr. Kaiser's already indicated he kind of likes the decor and Dolce restaurant there, so maybe there'll be a little bit of extra business for a local restaurant that's very convenient.
Well, we might be able to help each other. I'm very familiar with the owner of that particular restaurant, so we're up to his credit card processing, and I'm sure he'd love to have us come to his restaurant every day. So
Good. I like that.
I think it's a welcome addition to the downtown area. But just remember, that was intended, I think, for a condo originally.
Yes, sir.
So the parking issues now will be
Different.
much magnified greatly. We haven't taken into consideration what will go on the first floor then with employees and customers at that point. So this is all going to have to be figured out in the future. If it does come into a restaurant, it changes the whole game plan down there of where these people are going to park at that point. So as long as we all realize that that's going to be a possibility probably.
Any other questions or comments?
Again, Your Honor, we just wanted to make sure that the board was, you know, it's a very unusual presentation tonight and kind of out of sequence, if you will. And we thought that by, you know, kind of bearing our souls here to the village board, you know, you'd understand the reason why they're asking permission to issue the building permits prior to the time the variance would come back, because that's the exact opposite of the way we would normally process things. And it's just an unusual situation because of the time crunches that are at both ends here. We're going to have to, Mr. Reardon's going to have to build like crazy to build this thing out to Mr. Kaiser's satisfaction in a very short period of time.
So P&Z's taken out of it altogether?
No, we'll still have to process the parking variance. What is it, ex post facto, John? Is that how they say it?
Well, within the bounds of the law. So there's, got to go through the publication and all of that stuff and then to the board. But the risk really is on the business owner, because if the board hears public comments and decides, you know, now it sounds great, but if you change your mind and he's building out and expending money, that's his risk. And of course, the building permits will so state that it's subject to approval of the variance.
Okay. So I was hoping for some, you know, show of assurance or not assurance that would guide Mr. Kaiser in his decision to proceed, I guess.
Straw poll?
Straw poll. Starting with Trustee Scott.
Are you confident that we can fix the parking problem in the future if a restaurant goes in there?
Yes, sir. That's a challenge we look forward to.
Okay. I'm in favor.
Trustee Fleming.
I would be in favor. The only thing that I would say, as far as the parking variance goes in this particular scenario and situation, based on the fact, and if I do the numbers roughly, what you're asking to be waived, actually by buying the permits, will cover about half of that particular cost of the permits. Going forward, whatever individual would want to occupy the first floor of this property, I would not be in favor of seeing a parking variance. Other than that, I don't have a problem with it.
Trustee Seneca.
I'm absolutely fine with it, and I'm happy you'd like to stay in Westmont. Thank you.
I'm happy staying in Westmont. I'm all for it.
Considering how long it's been since we've had interest of a restaurant going in there, I'm thrilled that you like that building.
I do like it. Love it.
I have no problem with it whatsoever, either. Okay, unless there's any other further questions or information that you need, this will be on for consideration on Monday. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Next item, variance request, 420 East Ogden. For to consider a zoning code variance request from Auto Nation to increase the number of allowable signs.
Good evening, I'm Tom McCabe with Spaceco. We're here to represent Auto Nation, and this is the property, the old Baker Square property that we've already been before you. It's all fixed up, looks nice. The front face did not have any signage on it. There's a sign out front, there's a sign on the side of the building, and so tonight we're asking for a third sign, and it's about 2 feet in diameter, so it's maybe the size of this podium I'm at. And with this third sign, we're still between 1/3 and 1/2 of the required or the allowable amount of signage that we could have. So we're just looking for something on the front. It's almost more of a decoration than a sign. And again, we're looking for something on the front of the building. We're still well under the allowable signage, and that's why we're here.
Does staff concur with that information?
Not only is Tom one of the most frequently appearing petitioners, but he also brings us one of the applications, I think it is actually the application for the most minimal variance request we've seen in the last several years. The code would allow up to 128 square feet. They're proposing 47.9, so the variance has nothing to do with area in this case, it's just the number of signs. It is a corner lot, they're entitled to 2, they're proposing 3, but as he said, they are well under the total square footage that they'd be permitted.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Well, Tom, I just have to tell you that when you were in here and you wanted the permission to change that Baker Square into the pre-owned showroom, I was absolutely against it because I did not know how anyone could make that poopy-looking building look good. And now I take great pride in driving by it and saying to whomever is with me, guess what that used to be? So, yes, and I think the BMW logo on that building is appropriate.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
For your presentation. Thank you, Shannon. Next item, variance request 328 South Wilmette. Board to consider a zoning code variance request from AT&T to permit more than 3 antennas on a structure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me back again. This is a request to put up, there's currently 6 antennas up on the water tank at 94 feet. This is the LTE process that AT&T is going through. They are looking to take down those 6 antennas, replacing them with 6 like antennas. Now, the ones they're taking down are 72 by 12 by 4. The ones they're putting up are 73 by 12 by 4. So they're very, very similar. And then adding 3 more antennas. The coax is going to run in the same spot where the coaxes run now. They're not adding any more coax because they're putting up fiber optic for the last 3 antennas.
So at one time you had 10, you reduced it to 6, and now you want to take down the 6 and bring it up to 9.
Correct.
Which, if my math is right, that means more revenue for the village. Correct? Don't we rent that space? It's our water tower.
Not by antenna.
Yeah, it is your water tower.
Right.
It's not by antenna? I thought it was.
No, it's a lease. It's by lease.
Well, technically, it's a license, but it's just for the space, and they're not taking up more space.
Okay, okay. I do think we need to, and I mentioned it the last time, I can't remember which carrier was before us. We've had all of them recently. As technology continues to advance, I think we need to look at this ordinance and make it a little more reasonable so that we don't constantly have this revolving door of people coming in every time the technology improves. Just food for thought.
I agree. However, the only question that I have is, are they going to be installed in the same place, basically? It's not going to, are they going to be higher, exceed, current
right.
height or anything?
Correct. Right now, they're on just above the catwalk, so they will still be just above the catwalk. They're mounted on a pipe, so there'll just be one pipe added to the 3 sides.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just the structural part, and that's in our packet, is that? And there's a time when I understood this, just all the math.
Did you understand all of
But
the
there's not a time when I'm
Aren't you
assuming all
teaching
all the structural, it looks, you've got in here, so I'm assuming that's all fine and,
Right, the structure was taken care of with the water department.
okay.
Well, anytime any of the carriers co-locate, they do structure. The last thing you want is something falling down.
What's the weight of it?
First time we've got all this information that worked. It's like something I did in calculus many years ago.
What's the weight of one of the antennas?
This for Monday?
The antennas are about 28 pounds. Well, it's not even so much the weight, but it's the wind, how the wind catches it.
Okay. Any further questions, Trustee Forsley?
What's that? I'm sorry. What?
Of a technical nature?
No, that was, unless he wants to explain all this, and we'd be here all night, I'd say let's move on.
Well, wait a second.
Wait a second. Which one are you looking at?
One behind the AT&T letter that's further, go past all the calculations of wind loads, there, on the back of this.
Yeah.
The drawing shows 8 antennas. And you want to put 9.
This,
The circular drawing?
One in the middle.
the one in the middle, or no?
No, because these are going around the tower.
What page?
It's right past the calculations. It's right
Yeah, it's right past all of the,
Is it this one?
it's the one that, yes.
Yeah, the one in the
See
bottom
the
there.
bottom? Where it shows the antennas evenly spaced according to,
Circular top of the
how
antenna.
these, all right, keep sliding it down. See the bottom?
Yes, let me unclip
All right.
this.
Because if all the calculations have been done and somebody starts to install, we've got 8 antennas calculated for.
I don't think these are the antennas.
If you could maybe come back around.
Are those the legs of the tower?
Yeah, because if you look, our
for the-
antennas are clustered together. They're not all the way around.
Okay,
Okay,
that makes sense.
all right, just checking, thanks. So I'm guessing those are the legs.
Trust me, you had me worried.
Got it.
Okay, unless there are any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, Class 6 liquor license, 1 East Ogden Avenue. Board of considerations of a Class 6 liquor license for Walgreens at 1 East Ogden Avenue.
Good evening, Mayor, Village Board, Detective Craig Morzak, acting Deputy Liquor Commissioner until Deputy Chief Gunther arrives back from the FBI Academy. On February 8th, Walgreens, which is going to be located at 1 East Ogden Avenue, applied for a Class 6 liquor license, which authorized the retail sale of wines and liquors, only original package and not for consumption on the licensed premises, and not to cover any area less than 5,000 square feet. Currently, the history of Walgreens, which everyone is familiar with, is established in 1901. You all have summary packets here explaining my background, procedure, and review of the application. It was developed by Charles R. Walgreens Sr. He purchased the Chicago drugstore where he worked as a pharmacist, and that started the Walgreens chain. Currently, there are 7,800 stores in the continental United States and Puerto Rico. Walgreens have held interest in liquor license nationwide for the past 30 years. The new Walgreens store manager has submitted to a background check. And also, I have reviewed the ordinance, and the new store is well over 5,000 square feet at 4,985 square feet. And the beer and wine sales area is only 47 square feet. And the stock area for this is 18 square feet. It comes out less than a half percentage of the store's total square footage on the floor. Also, I reviewed Village Ordinance Section 10-33 because we have the daycare next door, and they are exempt from that, being that it is not their principal business to sell liquor at the Walgreens establishment. These plans were reviewed by myself, the Economic Development Director, Fred Kimball, on March 9th. Currently, the application store floor plan is in compliance with both ordinance subsections, and my background investigation has revealed no reasons at this time to deny the issuance of the requested Class 6 liquor license. Today I have Colleen Hayes, which is the district manager for Walgreens, and also the new store manager for the Westmont new location is Christine Carollo. This time, is there any questions?
Are they both available for interrogation by the board? What is the anticipated date for opening, approximately?
Good Friday.
Good Friday.
Good Friday.
23rd.
April 22nd.
April 23rd.
Is it the 23rd?
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, Easter's the 24th.
Easter's the 24th.
Oh, that's right.
So we'll be open prior to Easter.
Excellent. It's going to be great.
We might be working 24/7, but that's our hard date.
Okay, okay.
They have to open before the peeps get stale.
Right. It's going to be a wonderful Walgreens.
Yep.
Company has been the corporation has been wonderful in working with staff and making a lot of changes in the structure to make it more pleasing for everyone to look at. It's going to be a corporate store, not a leased store, and we're very happy about that. And I'm sure we've been told that there will be people coming in to visit and observe that store from a lot of other areas, because this is the new design that you've settled on and hope to build or are building in other areas around
Westmont is getting the first
one. Okay.
First net new proof of concept Project One store.
Okay.
They have 2 currently, and they have people coming in from all over the country to look at this.
Well, we're very happy that you've
We'll get a lot of
decided
attention here. We're excited.
do this in the village of Westmont, and we welcome Walgreens, and we also welcome the sales tax that it's going to generate.
Yes, we
our
do.
fine village. Any other questions from board members?
No?
Sue?
Fine.
Can't wait.
I'm going to clarify your issue, or I will ask it. The summary mentioned, and as did yours, Detective, wine and liquors, and a Class 6 is actually wine and beer.
Wine and beer only.
Wine and beer.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you for coming in this evening. We're sorry you had to wait this long for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, audit firm extension. Board to consider a motion approving an extension of Sikich LLP as the village's independent audit firm for fiscal year 2010-2011 and authorizing staff to release a request for a proposal RFP for audit services for a 3-year period beginning with fiscal year 2011-2012.
You have before you this evening 2 items, as the mayor has talked about, and they're very closely related. The first one is approving a 1-year extension of our current audit firm, Sikich, to continue for the next audit, and then The second item is to pursue a request for proposal for audit firms to apply for the next 3 years. Originally, these were kind of considered as one item. We were originally looking at a request for proposal beginning this year, and we reported on the progress of that at the last Administration Finance Committee meeting. We also talked about a couple of issues with that. One of the issues was the short turnaround time which would be required of the auditing firms to be able to make it for this year's audit. And we felt that that would be kind of a burden on them to be able to respond to it in such a short time frame to be able to do it this year. Additionally, it was discussed that with the turnover in staff, there's going to be a little bit of loss of institutional knowledge, loss of knowledge as to exactly how the village does the accounting and why they account for things in certain ways. And staff felt that it would be helpful for at least this initial audit to have the audit firm which has done it previously, which has that institutional knowledge, to be able to continue. And that is why you have before you this evening the two items. Number one, to extend the use of SIGIT for one additional year, and then the second item to look for comparison of other audit firms for the next 3 years. Any questions?
And I just wanted to point out that as we discussed at the Administration Finance Committee meeting, we had a RFP ready to be released. I passed out a draft of that this evening. And just wanted to call to the board's attention the insertion of a new section of the RFP. This is very similar to the document we've used in years past, but there's a new section, Section G, which has to do with pricing, fraud risk assessment, and transaction review. That's something we've added for the next RFP, and we'll be looking at very closely when we get those bids in.
Any other comments from board members?
I have a question. Spencer, I know what was discussed at Admin and Finance. What is your opinion as to whether we should keep Sikich for another year and send the RFP out for the following 3 fiscal years? If you had your druthers, despite what the committee discussed or may have seemed to decide, what's your preference?
My preference would be to do what is listed here as the proposal, which would be to extend it for 1 year and then to send out the RFP. I've been involved with the audit previously, and I've had some working relationship with the auditors, but I was not as heavily involved in it as our former finance director. Being that this would be the first audit where I would sort of be the point person, it would be really helpful for me to be able to have that institutional knowledge which the auditors would have. And I mean, we could make it work if it was the board's directive. We would make it work with another auditing firm. But I would feel much more comfortable with knowing that our next audit would be accurate, would have everything reported correctly if we stayed with the auditors, and they could, you know, together they could help show me exactly how everything's accounted for, rather than me trying to learn the items that I still don't know, a new staff accountant trying to learn items they don't know, and a new set of auditors trying to learn items they don't know. It'd be nice to have some continuity, at least for this first one, and then we could look at other firms for the future. That would be my preference.
Thank you, Spencer. It is your opinion that's important to me.
Thank you.
Can I offer a couple comments? Over the years, I've heard a lot of different finance directors and other communities debate, you know, the cycle in which you should replace auditors. Prior to Sikich coming here, we had the same auditor for 20, 25 years. And I've heard finance directors in some communities say that that is good because of that continuity of the institutional knowledge. I've heard other finance directors say a couple of 3-year contracts is appropriate. At that point, you need to really change auditors. You want to get a different group of people coming in to look. And I think we're right at that point, certainly. And I personally think it's healthy to make a change periodically.
Is there a reason why we couldn't do it for 6 months instead?
What, for 6 months?
It's a project, really. It's not.
Okay.
They have to do the whole fiscal year. So you can't really say you're only going to audit 6 months of the fiscal year.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be the full fiscal year.
Yeah, because of the production of the CAFR and
Right.
the final audit report at the end.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Spencer. Next item, DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference Legislative Action Program. Board to consider passing a resolution that will endorse the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference 2011 Legislative Action Program.
This is an item we do each year. DuPage Mayors and Managers puts together the Legislative Action Program, which we usually adopt by resolution. They always ask the member communities in the conference to do so. It provides guidance in terms of how we interact with our state legislators throughout the legislative year, as well as provides us some guidance. We participate in the Illinois Municipal League Legislative Day and the DuPage Mayors and Managers Drive Down Legislative Day, which happens this year to coincide on April 13th. In your packet, and I apologize for the quality in your packet, but there's a copy of this year's Legislative Action Program, and I just wanted to point out there's really three main sections to it. The first is the critical and what they call critical priorities and priorities. The next section is legislative principles, and then finally they have a number of position statements that are spelled out. Typically the focus when we go down to Springfield is to talk about the critical priorities, and I'll just mention this year that those center around some of the same themes we've had in past years, talking about public safety pension reforms, protecting municipal revenues, talking about Freedom of Information Act reforms. One that's come up here in the last couple of years, kind of out of the blue and impacted everybody significantly, is a revision of this Public Act, amending Public Act 96-1416, which created standards to dispose clean construction debris. It's really created a burden on public works departments all across the state because of the costs associated with that now. And we actually heard one of the sponsoring legislators at our legislative meeting with mayors and managers back in January explained that while the intent of the legislation was one thing, when it got to the rulemaking part with the agency involved, it really became something else, and they want to look at trying to amend that to alleviate some of that cost burden on municipalities. The last one of the priorities is to eliminate legislative barriers to consolidation of police and fire services. It's something that's a very strong topic across the county. In fact, last evening we were at the Mayors and Managers monthly meeting, and we heard from the Mayor of Burr Ridge, who's heading a task force on looking at fire consolidation, and it was an interesting report to hear that they finally put together a comprehensive list of all the fire equipment across the county, and we're anxious to take a look at that and look for opportunities of sharing equipment and other cost savings. So not to get off on a tangent, but it's all related to that issue. I won't go through all the other items in here. This will be posted on our website. There will also be a link back to Mayors and Managers Conference, or there is now on our website if people are interested in looking at the details. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point one thing out because I see in the section, which I can't, it's legislation statements, or it's difficult.
Which page?
But there was one thing that they were looking at for allowing the use of TIF funds for brick and mortar construction to aid in the redevelopment of blighted areas. Just so you all know, there's been activity in Springfield in the past couple of weeks that we're watching closely about. Some of our state legislators got the brilliant idea to abolish or severely limit TIF districts.
We actually got an email on that today.
And last I heard this morning, it was they were just talking and nobody was willing to go much further than that. So we're going to be paying close attention.
And Ron, just to that point, the email that we received today, I don't know if you got a copy of it or not. They're asking for a letter writing campaign and resolutions to be made.
Was that from mayors and managers?
No, it was not from mayors and managers. Nicolosi was the last name, I believe.
Okay.
Gift Association or something?
I remember that, yes.
Yeah, it came this afternoon, I think.
There's all kinds of TIF organizations that are really watching it closely, and putting out all kinds of appeals to municipalities to get involved right away.
Yes, Your Honor. Today I received, early this morning, I think, an email from Con Savoy with Tesca & Associates, our selected consultant for our TIF. He is a member of ITIA, the Illinois Tax Increment Association, requesting that we write letters in opposition to some of this very harmful TIF legislation that's on the agenda. And I think I have complete details. I think there were 3 or 4 separate bills that he delineated and asked specifically that we write letters in opposition to each one of them.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Next item, finance ordinance number 22.
Waive the reading.
Request to waive the reading. Purchase orders. Questions, comments on purchase orders? Hearing no comments, moving right along. There has been no request this evening for an executive session, so unless there's something else to come before the board at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Emery?
Second, Scott.
Roll call.
Trustee Emery?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Seneca?
Yes.
Trustee Forsley?
Yes.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.